It started on a Monday night. I was sitting in my living room, half watching TV while scrolling through my phone, when the security camera app sent a notification, "Motion detected in driveway." I glanced at the alert, expecting to see a raccoon or a stray cat, but when I opened the live feed, my breath caught in my throat. There, in the middle of my driveway, stood a man. He wasn't doing anything, just standing motionless under the dim glow of the streetlight. His face was obscured by shadows, but I could make out the details of his attire: an old-fashioned suit, slightly tattered at the edges, and a fedora tilted downward as if he didn't want to be seen. A chill crept down my spine. Who the hell was he? I peered through my front window, heart pounding in my chest, expecting to see him standing exactly where the camera showed him. But the driveway was empty. I flicked my eyes back to my phone. The camera still showed him there, standing deathly still. I rubbed my eyes, my pulse quickening. Maybe it was a glitch? A problem with the feed? I backed out of the app and reopened it. The live feed loaded, and the man was still there, in the same position. But in real life, there was no one. A deep unease settled in my gut. I checked the timestamp. The feed was current. This wasn't old footage or a recording. It was happening now. I felt a strange compulsion to step outside, to confirm with my own eyes what I already knew. The man wasn't physically there. But every instinct screamed at me to stay put. Instead, I did something equally reckless. I took a screenshot of the live feed and sent it to my friend, Jason. "Dude, check this out. My camera sees him. I don't." I watched the little typing dots appear, then disappear. A few seconds later, my phone vibrated. "Jason, WTF? That's creepy. Looks like a bad omen or something." I laughed, but it was forced. "Yeah, probably just a glitch." I stared at the screen again. The man still hadn't moved. Then, slowly, his head tilted upward. Even though his face was still shadowed, I swore I could feel his eyes locking onto me. And then the screen went black. The live feed had cut out. I cursed under my breath and backed out of the app, reopening it. The camera rebooted, loading the feed once again. The man was gone. I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. A glitch. That's all it was. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The night gets worse. The next morning, I nearly convinced myself I had imagined the whole thing. That was until I checked my phone and found the screenshot I had sent Jason. The man had been real, at least, real to the camera. I decided to brush it off as a weird tech anomaly. The footage had disappeared, and he hadn't returned. But later that night, as I got ready for bed, another notification lit up my phone. "Motion detected in backyard." A lump formed in my throat. This was different. My backyard was enclosed by a tall wooden fence. No one should be back there. My hands were clammy as I opened the feed. The man was standing in my backyard. Not at the fence. Not by the trees. But closer. Near the back door. My heart pounded against my ribs. Unlike the night before, his posture had changed. His hands were at his sides, fingers slightly curled, as if preparing to move. His head was tilted at a sharper angle, and something about it felt wrong, as if his neck were bent too far. I grabbed the nearest object, a kitchen knife, and inched toward the sliding glass door, barely able to breathe. My reflection stared back at me in the glass, wide-eyed and pale. Nothing was there. But on the screen, he was still standing there, unmoving. I flicked on the backyard lights. The yard lit up in an instant, revealing nothing. The camera still showed him, standing under the bright floodlight, but to my own eyes, the space was empty. The fear inside me morphed into something worse. Something primal. I shut the blinds and backed away. My mind was racing. What the hell was I dealing with? A ghost? A glitch? Something else? I didn't sleep that night. But I should have. Because the next time my camera detected motion, it wasn't outside. It was inside my house. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. The notification on my phone felt like a silent scream in my hands. Motion detected, living room. For a long moment, my body refused to obey me. My mind screamed at me to check the camera feed, to confirm what I already feared. But some primal, animalistic part of me, the part that understood danger on an instinctive level, was begging me to put the phone down, to run. Finally, with shaking hands, I tapped the notification. The feed loaded. At first, everything looked normal. My living room was dark, save for the faint glow of the streetlights bleeding through the blinds. The furniture was undisturbed. Nothing seemed out of place. Then my eyes landed on the corner of the screen. Just at the edge of the camera's view. The man. He was standing by my couch. Inside my house. A sickening wave of nausea rolled through me. This wasn't possible. My doors were locked. My windows were shut. No alarms had gone off. But none of that mattered, because he wasn't a normal intruder. He never was. I bolted upright, gripping the knife I had taken from the kitchen earlier. My mind was racing. If he was in my house, I should be able to see him. But if I looked into the living room right now, would I see nothing? Or worse, would I see him? I swallowed the terror clawing at my throat and forced myself to take slow, measured steps toward the living room doorway. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might give me away. The air felt wrong, thick, heavy, like something was watching me. I peered into the living room. It was empty. Of course, it was empty. The couch was there, exactly as the camera had shown. The coffee table. The TV. Everything was as it should be. Everything except a shape in the reflection of the TV screen. A man. Standing behind me. I spun around, knife raised. But there was no one there. I gasped, my whole body trembling. The TV screen was still on, dark and glossy, reflecting my pale, horrified face. And behind me, nothing. No man. No shadow. Just the emptiness of my home. And yet, when I checked my phone again, the live feed still showed him standing there. Unmoving. Watching. And then, the camera feed cut to black. The vanishing and the call. For the next hour, I sat frozen at my kitchen table, knife still clutched in my hands, unable to process what had happened. The man had vanished from the security feed when it rebooted. But I knew he had been there. I had seen him in the TV reflection. I had felt his presence. Jason. I needed to call Jason. I fumbled with my phone, fingers clumsy with fear, and pressed his contact. The line rang once, twice. Yo. His voice was groggy. It's almost 3 in the morning, man. What's up? I hesitated. How could I even explain this? That a man had been in my house, but only through the cameras? That I had seen his reflection but not his body? There's something wrong with my security cameras, I finally said. They're showing things that aren't there. Jason was quiet for a moment. Then, with a heavy sigh, he said, "Dude, you're freaking me out." "What do you mean?" I exhaled sharply and rubbed my temples. "I mean, there's a man. A man in a suit and hat. I saw him on my cameras outside. Then I saw him inside. But when I looked in real life, he wasn't there." Jason's silence stretched longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Tense. Was he wearing a black suit? A cold dread settled in my stomach. "Yeah." "And a hat?" "Yes," I whispered. Jason inhaled sharply. "Dude, we need to talk. In person." "What? Why?" He hesitated, then said, "Because I've seen him too. The man in the video." Jason came over half an hour later. Neither of us spoke much as he let himself in, locking the door behind him. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion and something else, fear. Without a word, I handed him my phone, pulling up the screenshot of the man standing in my backyard. Jason stared at it for a long moment. Then, slowly, he took out his own phone and scrolled through his photos. When he turned the screen toward me, My blood turned to ice. It was a picture. A still frame from a video, grainy and low quality. But the subject was unmistakable. The same man. Same black suit. Same fedora. Only, this photo wasn't from my house. It was from Jason's. I stared at him, my mouth suddenly dry. What the hell is going on? Jason set his phone down, rubbing his face with both hands. I don't know. It started 2 nights ago. I was up late gaming when I got a notification from my doorbell camera. When I checked the feed, he was just standing there, at the end of my driveway. Same as yours. A chill ran through me. Did you ever see him in real life? Jason hesitated. Then, quietly, he said, "No. But I think he saw me." A beat of silence stretched between us. Then, as if the night had one last trick to play, both our phones vibrated at the same time. We turned to them in unison. 2 new notifications. Both from our security cameras. Both with the same alert. Motion detected, living room. We looked at each other, dread sinking in. Jason swallowed. Yours or mine? I turned my phone around, heart pounding in my chest. The live feed opened, and there he was. The man. Standing inside my house. But this time, his head was turned toward the camera, and for the first time, I could see his face. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had never looked. The moment my eyes landed on the screen, my breath hitched in my throat. The man was no longer just standing in my living room. He was facing the camera now. For the first time, I could see his face. And it wasn't right. His skin was pale, almost gray, with deep, hollow sockets where his eyes should have been. But there was something there. A darkness, shifting and writhing, as if something else was looking through him. His mouth was slightly open, revealing impossibly sharp teeth, but it was his expression that made my stomach twist in terror. It wasn't anger. It wasn't menace. It was recognition. Like he knew me. Like he had been waiting for me to see him. The camera flickered. The image distorted, glitching for a second before freezing completely. No signal. A dead silence filled the room. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears, my own breath ragged with panic. Jason's voice cut through the stillness. "Dude, what the hell was that?" I shook my head, unable to answer. My hands trembled as I tried refreshing the feed. Nothing. The camera had completely lost its connection. Then, a noise. A creak. Not from my phone. Not from the camera. From inside my house. Jason and I locked eyes. The air was thick with tension, pressing down on us like an unseen force. My mind screamed for an explanation, any rational excuse for what was happening, but there was none. Another creak. It came from the hallway. Right outside the room we were in. Jason whispered, "We're not alone." My grip tightened around the kitchen knife still in my hand. The blade felt useless, like bringing a rock to a gunfight. But it was all I had. The air was suffocating now. The kind of silence that wasn't really silence, like something unseen was holding its breath, waiting for us to move. And then, the worst thing happened. Jason's phone, still in his hand, buzzed. The sound shattered the stillness. A new notification. Jason looked down at his screen. His face went pale. He slowly turned the phone toward me. Motion detected. Hallway. A wave of cold horror washed over me. Jason swallowed hard. "We need to move." I didn't argue. With slow, deliberate steps, we edged toward the hallway door. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to run, to hide, to do something, but I couldn't risk making a sound. Jason reached the door first. With a shaking hand, he turned the knob and pushed it open. The hallway stretched before us, dimly lit by the glow from my bedroom nightlight. It was empty. But we both knew better. Jason gestured for me to check the camera feed again. My fingers fumbled as I reopened the security app. The feed reloaded. And the man was gone. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe he left. Jason wasn't convinced. He took a cautious step forward. Or maybe. A loud thud echoed from the end of the hallway. The sound came from inside my bedroom. The shadow in the mirror. Neither of us spoke. Jason's breathing was shallow, his muscles tensed like a coiled spring. I forced myself to take a step forward, knife raised. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, the darkness inside stretching into an inky void. I could feel something in there. Watching. Waiting. Jason gave me a look, one that said we'd do this together, or not at all. I nodded. With one swift motion, I pushed the door open. The room was still. My bed was unmade, my desk lamp still on. But the closet door. It was open. And I never left it open. My throat was dry. I lifted my phone, hand trembling, and switched to the bedroom camera feed. The screen loaded. The closet door was open in the feed, too. But there was something else. A figure. Standing inside the closet. I looked up from my phone. The closet looked empty to my naked eye. But on the screen, the man was there. Standing deathly still. Jason let out a shaky breath. "Tell me you see that." I could barely whisper. "I do." And then, the closet door slammed shut. We both jumped back. My heart was hammering, every instinct screaming at me to get out. But Jason did something insane. He lunged forward and ripped the closet door open. The space inside was empty. But only for a second. Because as soon as I looked back at my phone screen, the man was gone from the camera feed. And then, Jason gasped. I turned just in time to see him staring at my bedroom mirror, his face draining of color. I followed his gaze. And my stomach dropped. The mirror. The mirror wasn't reflecting us. It was reflecting the room. Yes. The bed, the nightstand, the closet. But not us. And then, from deep within the glass, something shifted. A shape. A shadow. It stepped forward. The man. But this time, he wasn't just watching. He was reaching out. His hand pressed against the inside of the glass, his fingers twitching like he was testing a barrier, like he was seeing how far he could go. Then, slowly, his head tilted. His mouth moved. No sound came out, but I could read his lips. "I see you." Jason yanked me back. "We're leaving. Now." I didn't argue. We bolted out of the room, slamming the door behind us. Something rattled inside. A deep, guttural noise, not quite a growl, not quite a whisper. And then, the lights flickered. And my phone buzzed one last time. A new notification. Jason and I stared at the screen together. "Motion detected. Behind you." I turned. And something breathed against my ear. The breath on my ear sent a jolt of terror down my spine. I spun around, swinging my knife wildly at nothing. Jason yanked me backward, his grip like a vice on my arm. His face was drained of all color. "We need to go. Now." But where could we go? The man, the thing, was inside my house, inside my walls, my mirrors, my cameras. He wasn't a person. He wasn't even a ghost. He was something else. Something that saw us. Something that wanted us. Jason grabbed his phone with shaking hands, tapping at the screen. "I'm calling the cops." The dial tone rang. 1 ring. 2, 3, and click. A voice, distorted and low, rasped through the speaker. "They can't help you." Jason paled. His thumb mashed the end call button over and over, but the line was dead. The lights flickered again. The house groaned, the air thickening, pressing down on us like invisible hands closing in. Then, the TV in the living room powered on. The screen was nothing but static. And through that static, a shape, a face, hollow eyes, a slack jaw, that terrible, unnatural grin. The man was watching us through the screen. Jason grabbed my arm. "Forget the cops. We need to leave." He didn't have to tell me twice. We ran for the door. I grabbed the handle and yanked. It didn't budge. I twisted the lock back and forth, pulled harder. It was stuck. Jason rushed to the windows, trying to pry them open. They wouldn't move either. Not an inch. Trapped. Panic clawed up my throat. This isn't possible. Jason pounded on the glass. Help. Somebody. No one was outside. The street was empty. Silent. Like the whole world had vanished. And the static on the TV shifted. The man moved closer to the screen. His mouth opened. And he whispered, "Let me in." The knock at the door. Jason and I backed away, our bodies pressed against the wall. The air in the house had turned ice cold, like all warmth had been sucked out. And a knock. Slow. Rhythmic. Knock. 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 Jason and I looked at each other. His breathing was ragged, his eyes darting from the front door to the windows to the TV. The knocking came again. Knock. 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 It wasn't normal knocking. It wasn't human. It echoed too much. Sounded too deep. And then, from the TV, the voice whispered, "Open the door." Jason shook his head violently. Hell no. I could barely breathe. My pulse hammered against my skull. My hands clenched into fists. And then, the door handle turned. Slowly. Deliberately. Jason grabbed me. Basement. Now. I didn't think. I just ran. We bolted down the hallway, threw open the basement door, and slammed it shut behind us. Darkness swallowed us whole. Jason flicked on his phone flashlight, casting shaky shadows across the cement floor. The basement smelled damp, the air thick with dust and something else, something sour, rotten. We pressed ourselves into the farthest corner, trying to stay as silent as possible. Above us, the knocking had stopped. Silence. And the sound of the front door creaking open. My stomach dropped. Jason mouthed, "No way." But we both knew what it meant. The man had gotten in. The voices in the dark. We didn't move. Didn't breathe. Upstairs, the floorboards creaked. Slow. Measured. He's looking for us. Jason turned off his flashlight, plunging us into complete darkness. And a voice drifted down the basement stairs. Soft. Familiar. My voice. "Jason," it called. "Come upstairs." Jason stiffened beside me, his breath hitching in his throat. My stomach twisted. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. The voice spoke again, still gentle, still wrong. "You're safe now." Jason's hand gripped my wrist, his fingers ice cold. I could feel the tremble in them. The voice came again, softer this time. "We can't stay down here forever." I clenched my teeth, my entire body screaming with tension. Then, a second voice. Jason's voice. "Come out, dude." It was his voice. But Jason was right beside me. My blood ran cold. The air in the basement seemed to shift. A pressure built around us, like something unseen was moving closer. The voices continued. "Come upstairs. We found a way out. You don't have to hide." I shook my head violently, whispering, "That's not us." Jason's grip tightened. "I know." And a new sound. Something descending the basement steps. Slow. Deliberate. Step. By step. By step. Jason's breathing turned shallow. We couldn't see it. Couldn't tell how close it was. But we could feel it. The temperature dropped further. The smell of something old and rotting filled my nose. And something shifted in the darkness, just a few feet away. A presence. Waiting. Watching. And then a hand touched my shoulder. I screamed. The second that thing touched me, a wave of icy terror shot through my body. It wasn't a normal hand. It was wrong. Too long. Too thin. The fingers curled slightly, pressing just enough to let me know. It was real. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I bolted. Jason was right behind me, our footsteps slamming against the cement floor as we sprinted toward the basement stairs. But as we ran, the basement shifted. The walls stretched. The space around us seemed to grow longer, darker, like we were running through a tunnel that had no end. No, 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 and no. Jason's voice cracked with panic. We were just near the stairs. Where are they? I didn't have an answer. My lungs burned, my vision blurred with terror. The basement wasn't just a basement anymore. It was a trap, and we were inside it. And a voice, low, guttural. You can't run. Jason screamed. The air rippled, like a breath in the dark. And the ground beneath us gave way, and we fell. The endless room. I hit the ground hard. My head slammed against something solid, and for a moment, everything went black. When I came to, the first thing I saw was Jason. He was lying a few feet away, groaning, his face twisted in pain. And the second thing I saw was the room. It wasn't my basement. It wasn't anywhere. The walls stretched forever in all directions, bathed in a dim, lifeless glow. The floor was smooth, cold, and endless. No doors. No windows. No way out. Jason sat up, rubbing his head. Dude! His voice was hoarse, shaking. What the hell is this? I had no answer. We stood up slowly, looking around. Nothing. Nothing except the infinite emptiness. And a sound. A slow, rhythmic tapping. We turned and saw him. The man. Standing just a few feet away. This time, he was closer. More defined. His skin was too smooth. His eyes were still hollow voids, shifting with something that wasn't human. And that grin. That sickening, knowing grin. He took a step forward. Then another. Jason grabbed my arm. Move. We ran. But it didn't matter. Because the man didn't chase us. He didn't have to. No matter how far we ran, no matter how fast, he was always there. One step behind. One breath away. Jason gasped. We're trapped. I knew he was right. And then my phone buzzed. The final message. I didn't want to look. But my body moved on its own, my trembling hand lifting the phone. One final notification. New device connected to your security feed. My blood ran cold. Jason looked over my shoulder. What the hell does that mean? I tapped the notification with shaking fingers. The security app opened. A new camera feed had been added. One I had never installed. I clicked it, and the screen showed Jason and me, standing in this endless void, staring at my phone. We were being watched. Jason choked out, "That's not possible." But it was. And then the camera feed zoomed in, past Jason, past me, to the space behind us, where the man stood, grinning, watching. And then the screen went black, and a message appeared. You let me in. Epilogue. Who's watching? I don't remember what happened next. I don't remember how we got back. All I know is that I woke up in my house, in my bed, like nothing had ever happened. Except, Jason won't answer my calls. The security cameras are gone from my app. And every time I walk past a mirror, I see something in the reflection. Not me. Not Jason. And he's getting closer.